John, when you want. Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to our City Council meeting of June 28, 2017. I will call this meeting to order and we have a moment of reflection. Nate Turner, please come forward.
All right, let's reflect. Thank you for this amazing day, Lord, and this amazing country that we live in, and this wonderful city that I know I love and my family loves. We love living here. Thank you for these folks that seek to lead it, ask for guidance and wisdom as we try to advance what needs to be done here in this great place that we get to live. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please, before our July 4th celebration at Grape Day Park, we'll have a great event. Let's honor our flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you. Roll call indicates that all council members are here. We will start this meeting with a very inspiring presentation from our great tax collector, Dan McAllister. Dan, the floor is yours. We can only take good news at this meeting, but...
Just for the record, the treasurer is used to thunderous applause when he stands to deliver, so anytime. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be back here. This is a great city, as the gentleman said, and Escondido is terrific. So I just want you all to be aware that we think of you that way as running a great city. I came today just to give you kind of an update, which has turned into somewhat of an annual update on the numbers of tax bills and how much we're collecting in our office, as well as a few other things that are going on that might be of interest to you as well as your constituents. First of all, this last fall, we issued 989,089 bills countywide, almost 1 million tax bills. From that, we expect to collect, when all is said and done at the end of this fiscal year, at the end of this week, just about $5.66 billion in both taxes as well as fees. Ms. Diaz and I had a brief conversation earlier about sometimes all of these numbers kind of crunch into one tax bill, and when people think their tax bills go up, they really didn't necessarily go up, but school bonds and certain other charges and fees sometimes add up also. So that's all of what we do collect. This year, our pool, our investment pool for the county, for the second year in a row, passed $10 billion. That means we're now the second largest county pool in the state of California. We have a full-time staff that manages those assets for cities as well as public entities. In fact, we have about 210 different public agencies, including our 42 public school districts, the 5 community college districts in San Diego, the airport, Sandag, any number of other public agencies we manage money for. That's one of the things we do. And with me today is our Chief Deputy Treasurer, Tom Palicelli, over here, as well as the Chief Deputy Treasurer, CIO, Chief Investment Officer, Hank Kim, right with him. I do want to say, too, that San Diegans are very forthright, live up to their promises, live up to the expectations. Our collection rates the last 2 years have surpassed 99%. In fact, last year, 99.3%. And we're praying as we hit the finish line in the next couple of days that we once again top that 99% figure. It's very close, but it's a good number to have. It means that things are doing well. The economy is good. It's robust. It's picking up. We know valuations are going up, and we know sales prices are going up. That's good news and different news in some quarters, I think. But I'm sorry? Going door to door helps. That's right. We're there. If they need a pickup, we'll definitely pick up that fund. But you're right, going door to door does help. The other thing that we started a few years ago, which has become very popular, is subscribing now on a free subscription basis to a secured property tax notification. Around the 2 seasons of giving, when we start in the fall, leading up to the December deadline of December 10th, and then the same with February through April 10th, we offer to notify people to remind them to pay their taxes online. We have 270,000 taxpayers now signed up for this service. It's a free service. One needs only to go onto our website at sdtragetax.com, and the instructions will help them guide to the place they need to be to sign up for that. One more note here on collections, and that is that 58% now of all of our collections are electronic, and it climbs more every time we have a collection cycle. We have seen a huge increase in what's called e-check, which is a free service. Anyone can use it as long as you know your routing number and your account number from your bank. You can go online, you can be receipted with a date-stamped, time-stamped proof that you paid, and that is becoming more and more the popular way to pay. Credit cards are only about 3% of what we do. Sadly, and we have told the credit card companies if they would lower their fees, more people might use their cards. But that is a declining venture, and they don't seem to get that message very well. But it's not without trial and effort and trying to let them know that. The other large chunk now is impound accounts. That's an area that is growing, and as more people take out new mortgages, they very often will sign up to have their taxes automatically impounded, and then
with the mortgage, yes.
The lender then will pay the taxes. So that really is where we are on the tax bill. I'd say there's one more note here, and I think it's very important in the region in which we operate, and that is we now speak 17 different languages in our 5 offices. And it's very helpful because we're there to serve our customers, and when our customers come to us and speak a different language, we can communicate and we can explain to them that there's a reason they received this tax bill, and it's a tradition in California that people pay it, and we can do it in their language, and that does help us a lot. There's just one more note here, and that's sort of under the guise and the bridge of tax collections, and that is our annual tax sale. We had the first phase of our tax sale this year, where we had 1,500 different properties of people and entities that had not paid taxes in 5 years or more. The law says that we have the right to at least recapture those monies because they benefit all people in the county, not just one tiny sector or one individual. So we did our very first online auction in the early part of May this year. We generated more money, $5.6 million in unpaid back taxes, than we have ever generated through any sale like this. We also attracted bidders from all over the country, which is something we could not do with an in-person auction like we used to do at the convention center downtown. So we are trying to expand our horizons. We are trying to become more efficient in making this e-pay and e-buy and e-bid a way of life, and it seems to be working. I will tell you that we have 1,015 properties left that did not sell, and we are going to do a second offering in July. The sign-up period, the registration period, is now through July 13th. And if anybody needs information about this, once again, they can go to our website, sdtragetax.com. There is a refundable $1,000 deposit and a non-refundable $35 processing fee to the registrant. It's important to note, too, that 936 of these properties are timeshares. They're small but mighty in the minds of owners and people that enjoy a one-week vacation every year. But believe it or not, people forget to pay their taxes on those. They forget they own them sometimes. We end up with them, and it's our job to try to put them back on the market. Some of those are being put to bid at a minimum bid of $100. So there may be something there of interest to your constituents or all of you. If you ever envisioned staying on the beach in Carlsbad for a week, or La Berge, or any of those North County properties, it might be good to look and peruse to see what's available. Last two items of importance. These are new, and I'm assuming you know the tax bill. Everybody knows what the tax bill is, but every year we do focus groups with citizens to ask their inputs on how we can make our bill more helpful, easier to read, kinder, gentler, happier.
You took the Carl's Jr. stars from the bill.
Well, we're trying. But nevertheless, the bill does reflect, I think, an easier on the eyes and easier to read document than ever before. This blue document is new. It's something that we have many of. We're happy to make them available to you, your constituents, and others if it helps to explain the tax process, how people arrive at their taxes, and the fact they should pay them. Last but certainly not least is a document that goes inside every tax bill, but it has a pie chart which shows on the page exactly where the monies go that are collected each year through our efforts at the tax collector's office. Last but certainly not least is this presentation. I won't go through the entire presentation with respect to your time today, but I did want to let you know that as I said before, we're now the second largest investment pool in the state of California. And that means something. We're locally managed. We have a separate team headed up by these two gentlemen here. They, just like stockbrokers, come in early and most of the time stay late, but they're there to manage your money and the money of the citizens of San Diego. And these are funds many times that school districts accrue through bond issuances. They're monies that the airport, for instance, is accruing through some of the bonds that they have issued for their massive facelift that they're doing, or other entities as well. And our mission really is not to lose money. We don't place bets with this money. We take it very seriously because if we lose money, it's not a good thing. So I hope that we'll have a chance. We spoke with your city manager earlier, and we'd like a chance to come back sometime and speak a little bit about the many services that our office does provide, because we think we do have some value to add and something to offer, especially because we're locally run. And
Councilmember Gallo, do you have a question?
Glad to hear you say you don't bet the money. That's good. We have a number of students here from Escondido High School.
yes.
Do you have a lot of these today?
I don't have a lot today, but we could certainly get them up there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Parting gift for the summer? What do you think?
Yeah. Get in touch with Mr. McAllister. Yes.
My guess is that none of them has seen a tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Their parents do.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember
If I know
Diaz.
how many, we can order them and get them here tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's important that you know what these look like because we're hoping you'll grow up to pay them. That's why we invest so much.
Well said. Well said.
So I agree with everything that you've said. I appreciate all the information. And if it's one little bit of critique, that you feature in your beautiful material only coastal areas. So the next time you redo your presentation, your printed material, some inland hills or some hiking trails, or San Diego County is not just the city of San Diego. So we'd like to see some inland representation in your materials. So
on our website, you can see that. I will tell you that we have looked every year we look for ways to include all cities in what we do, in our statements and those kinds of things. The cost of featuring all 18 cities and different parts of the county with separate pictures is fairly large, and we would do it if we could. We had to look for the most common visual awareness icon in San Diego, and I think with all the people we talked to, unfortunately, it was the San Diego downtown skyline. But I think you make a great point, and we will work harder to try to incorporate more pictures from the backcountry, from this area, from all areas, so that more people can have access to their areas.
So as I understand it, a third of the population of the county lives in North County.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably we're paying a third of the taxes to the county. So I just think it's fair periodically for us to have some features in your material. So I mean, this is gorgeous, absolutely, but maybe alphabetize the cities, and every year one of them gets featured.
I'm gonna.
It's something silly, I know, but We know when we look at materials that we're always looking to highlight or feature North County, and specifically Escondido, but I'd be happy if San Marcos was in it, just sort of the north area. Just a thought.
I'm going to recommend Stone Brewing Company in your next one, so people can, celebrate paying their big property tax bills. So, just a question, Dan. I should have called you and talked to you about it.
Sure.
First, we want to thank you for a great operation there in the county. I cannot say that about the land use part of the county, but definitely the tax collection is really becoming better and more efficient and more business friendly. We just learned, I'm the chairman of LAFCO, we just learned about annexing those small properties inside the city will make it better to provide services. We also learned that when we collect this 1% and plus the local jurisdictions, that it goes to one pot and it's not distributed fairly and equally to all the jurisdiction. It is distributed based on the tax rate at that time when Proposition 13 was passed. Escondido is the second lowest city in terms of collection of property tax share from that 1%, and it's like $7 million below the average. And this is an issue because of Proposition 13. Of course, Proposition 13 is a great proposition. I think it has helped a lot of people realize the American dream and owning property, and that's why the growth in home ownership and the assessed value is larger now than ever before. But is there anything that can be done, or maybe we can talk about it later and have a meeting with you, but basically Escondido gets $7 million a year less than the average cities under the property tax collection.
Well, we'd like to sit down and take a look at that with you and whomever else would be interested in knowing, and I'm happy to bring the assessor with me. Because I think the assessor really is the keeper of the data and the apportionment numbers that we need to know before we speak of any apportionment for any city.
Right. We are still analyzing this. We will set a meeting with the city manager and look into this. Okay.
We'd be happy to do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the good presentation.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, oral communications. I have one request. Bruce Sims. Oral communication.
I don't know that I can speak in 3 minutes, so I can put together something
Yeah. So this is not about the mobile home park. This is oral communications, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was something doing with the mobile home park.
Okay.
So I would like to make sure that everybody gets their copy. Mr. Epps didn't get his copy.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Mr. Epps didn't get his copy.
Well, give him mine, and I will share. Okay.
Okay. Mayor, council members, and city manager, I'm here to talk about water, wastewater, and their municipal code. This issue of municipal code section 3151 is explained on the last page of the documentation associated with this prepared testimony. I will be returning that documentation with signatures I'm going to gather from Escondido residents in my mobile home park, and I can assure you there will be many more signatures than the 4 submitted regarding Section 12H solicitation. Despite writing to the council asking for change and having the process for billing associated with wastewater sewer charge explained by Mr. McKinney and Karen Ewell, it is still an arbitrary process that is inconsistent with the rate changes recently signed off on by the council. It does not reflect what was presented to the council for wastewater rates in the mobile home park. It is illogical given the 100% in and out use for such rates by the utility department. It has no basis in reality for residents in a mobile home park and makes for the favoring of one class mobile home park owners over Escondido mobile home park residents. It also causes those mobile home residents who restrict their water use to subsidize those who don't by reflecting actual water usage. I paid $15 a month more this past billing for sewer than I did for water. Now that may not seem like a lot of money, but if you're on Social Security and you're considered extremely low income, $15 goes a long way, so let me tell you. I again point out that the mobile home parks get monthly varying bills for volumetric usage of water. There is simply no reason other than it being arbitrary for the current policy to continue. Given that mobile home rates are based on 100% in, 100% out, as indicated in the rate proposals you signed off on, the idea that winter usage is the factor for year-round billing of wastewater would seem not to be reflective of the usage based on weather differential. Example given, more water is used in summer months than winter months. It also seemed to bring up the question of whether the policy fails the rational review scrutiny under the 14th Amendment. So again, I request the council to direct the city manager to direct the utility department to start billing wastewater charges to mobile home parks on the same basis as the monthly billing for volumetric water usage. This would not be a burden to mobile home parks as they already address volumetric water usage in the monthly bills they send residents, and the same algorithm used to legally bill for such usage can be used for wastewater sewer. Lastly, with the rejection of the SDCWA suit against the Metro Water District, I would remind the council of what was said by the SDCWA regards monies in the presentation to the council, and mentioned that the City of San Diego has decided to implement an assistance program for water bills using the same criteria that someone seeking care discounts must meet.
Okay.
Given the known fact of water cost increasing in the future, I urge the council to consider a similar mechanism for Escondido residents.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Briefly, Mr. Abt, we have had this communications before with the council, and it was determined that it's not a city issue, it was a landlord-tenant issue.
That's my recollection. I just,
Your time is up, sir. You can sit down and listen to us now talking about
I've
this.
checked with the city attorney. We'll go back and dig up that correspondence.
Okay.
But my recollection is staff had explored this fairly thoroughly. So we'll dig that up and recirculate it to give you that assurance.
And we have a copy of his communication. If there is anything else, we can work with Mr. Sims about it. Okay,
Yes.
we'll do it. Thank you. Okay, we move on to our consent calendar. I would like to pull item 4, and also item 6 has been pulled by the public, and item 7 is pulled by the staff. And I need a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Gallo. I have a second by Councilmember Morasco. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Item 4 is amendment to section 12H for the Mobile Home Park Rent Review Board guidelines. I want to take the lead about this and just set the stage here. They did bring this back to us, I think a month ago or so, and I thought maybe there is some merits to it, and we looked into it, and we looked at the background of the communication with the grand jury and all these things, and we did, the city sent 1,075 communications mail to the residents. We got only 4. I think 2 people have expressed support. One is in opposition, and one is, he has some concerns as well. I'm concerned about changing the present system for one reason. Under the long form scenario that I've been here on the council, we have seen some contentious hearings. We have seen some divisiveness in the community, and we have seen a lot of issues. And we ended up with granting, under the long form, more money for the mobile home park owners versus the short form, which has worked perfectly. I think we have heard so many short form, which allows the owners to charge just 75% of the CPI. And we have been really for about maybe 8 years, 10 years, I can't remember. We have built that trust between the mobile home park residents and the mobile home park owner, and we have seen substantial improvement in the mobile home parks that benefit the mobile home park residents. So now I can see that in the staff report that the background of the things, it ain't broken. Why fix it? And I think if we're going to, under the short form guidelines, it does say that the council may consider denying the increase if 51%, 50%, and one shows up to oppose the rent increase. So why are we adding a legal requirement of affidavit of signatures to a non-binding process? And I believe it's not needed. I looked at the people who went to the grand jury. Normally you go to the grand jury for crime committed, not for a disagreement on an issue with the city. And now, you know, people are not happy with the council majority. That's fine, no problem. You know, this is the great democratic process. But to go and use the grand jury as a vehicle to oppose the council majority because of their decision, it's just, I'm struggling with that myself. You know, I'm concerned about changing anything. I would like to see things continue the way they are, because mainly they served the mobile home park residents and benefited them. So we're creating a political divisiveness factor in there. And look, we received communications under the hearing, and we looked at them. The present system does not prevent any senior citizens or people who are not able to attend to send us a signed document that I oppose it. Send us an email. We still look at it and we consider it. We read the opposition. So the system is working now, working right now. I want to ask the city attorney about a little bit of a background of how binding is this grand jury complaint. Mr. McInnes.
Just to be clear, the message that was received, the genesis of this, came from the coordinator of the grand jury. It was not a grand jury report, an official document from the grand jury. It was simply the coordinator asking if we would consider to look at something. So that's what prompted the review of this. And then we went through the review that you've described, where we sent out the letters to the park residents and the park owners, and what you see today is the results of that. So you're not under any obligation to make any changes associated with the grand jury's coordinator's request for review.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rapp, from the short form process point of view, what is your experience?
If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I will turn it to, let me open the public hearing. We have Julie Pauly wants to speak on this item.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Julie Pauly with the WMA, and I sent in a letter to participate in the request for feedback and input on the process, and simply the park owners are in agreement with pretty much what the mayor just summarized, that we don't need to make changes. I think credit goes to Mr. Epp. To my understanding, you were very involved with the negotiation of the short form back in the day. So it was carefully negotiated amongst all parties decades ago. I'm sorry that you were involved. I'm sorry. I never bridged those two comments in my mind. I'm sorry.
Stop while you're ahead.
I know. Everyone got something they wanted, and everyone was kind of stuck with something they didn't like in that process. Probably a sign that it was a good outcome. This negotiated agreement essentially eliminated litigation, which is remarkable. It lowered the cost to taxpayers to administer the ordinance. It gave residents a low, predictable rent increase that they can count on getting. And it provided park owners a fair rate of return without having to litigate it. So therefore, we don't support the amendment, with the exception there was some added language of changing the hearing process, and that's not impactful on our abilities to run the parks, and we're perfectly fine with making that change. But in my letter, I did make some comments about concerns about this applying to all seniors. Certainly not all seniors have a hardship to come to City Hall for hearings. In the month of May, the city of Escondido had 119 activities for seniors. So they're not in and of, just because they're a senior does not mean that they can't come to City Hall to participate in a rent hearing. So so that I'll just leave my recommendations are in there, or in your staff report, and I think that is all I have to say, because I think I've said enough.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing and go back to council discussion. Councilmember Morasco.
Okay. Again, I was really looking forward to some sort of modification that would facilitate the process for those who truly are in need of physical assistance, or where it encumbers them or is a physical challenge to participate in the process. Bit of a background, I work with seniors and disabled people all day long and have for decades. And as I read this, it was just like flashing lights when it said senior and disabled, because to me, there's no definition there. There's nothing that determines what a senior is or what a disabled individual is, because I can tell you, I know a lot of seniors who are not physically limited or disabled, Mr. Gallo and yours truly being a couple of them, but I also know a lot of disabled people that aren't challenged with mobility and are able to participate as well, if not better, than a lot of us here in this room. So to me, this is too wide open. It's not defined. All it does is cause problems instead of resolve the problem, because a senior technically right now is anyone from age 55 and above. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people who are age 55 and above who are extremely physically active and have the ability to participate. If we can facilitate this so those who are truly challenged, and my language is residents with significant mobility or functional limitations or otherwise disabled, where they could be assisted at the site, because there are 20-year-olds who could have a broken back and cannot attend because of whatever reason. They're limited or restricted functionally, and they couldn't participate because at the time it was held, because of whatever temporary or long-term limitations or restrictions they had in their mobility. As an example as to what I'm saying, there's a mobile home park up in Valley Center that has an executive golf course there, a par 3 golf course. The average age of the golfers at that park with the residents is 84. Okay? That's the average age right now. That's a statistic from this week. So being a senior doesn't necessarily mean that you're dysfunctional, and being disabled doesn't mean you don't have the ability to be mobile. So if this is something that we truly want to do, this language really has to be changed and redefined and structured in such a way that it is helping those who truly need to be helped, and not facilitating individuals who just want a mechanism to try to challenge this time-tested system that we currently have.
Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. Mike, the words you used, I didn't write them down fast enough, but I would be happy to change the language out for the words that you use that are much more specific about what we're trying to do. And I know there was a comment about how the system works. In fact, there's several times. It works for most people, but it doesn't work for all people. And there have been many hearings where we know that there are seniors who, even if they're not disabled, they're not comfortable driving at night, because these meetings can go hours. And some times of the year it gets dark at 4:30, and that is their challenge more than anything else. And we should be able to accommodate them, because it is their life that we're impacting directly, seniors on fixed incomes and seniors with mobility or transportation issues. So it's not just disability. There are a lot of people who are uncomfortable driving after dark because of eyesight, because of a variety of issues. So unfortunately, they don't have the luxury of sending a representative or sending a lawyer or a team of people to come represent their interests. They have to do it themselves. And sometimes they're here with walkers, they're here with canes, they're here escorted by their children who are, older adults as well. It is a sight to see. And so what I believe is trying to be addressed here is that we have compassion for people who want to express themselves but can't physically get to us in a way that maybe others can. accepting a letter, a handwritten letter with an address so it's not anonymous, I think is a reasonable accommodation. I don't anticipate we're going to get 50 of these things every time we have a mobile home hearing. I think people will use it judiciously. But I would very much like to be able to accommodate, and I've wanted to do that for a long time, regardless of the grand jury or anything else. We have seen in this council chambers many times when a senior who is here will say there are people who couldn't be here today because they couldn't get here. So I do want to include some language like this. I don't think it causes any harm. I think we have as much latitude to reverse it if it is being abused as we do to adopt it. And I did want to explain, because we have a lot of people here who may not be familiar with the grand jury. The grand jury serves the county of San Diego, and jurors typically tend to be retired people that apply and get selected by a judge to serve as sort of an oversight organization. And what they do, their specific purpose, and they only have one-year terms, is to represent the citizens of San Diego by investigating, evaluating, and reporting on the actions of local government and special districts. It's their job to look at us and every other city and every other government organization within our county that may be doing something not necessarily bad, but something that can be improved. And I think that's all they've suggested is an improvement. I understand that we're not legally bound to incorporate their ideas as it's been presented, but I think it is the nice thing to do, and we can accommodate that, and we do have the heart and the ability to craft language well enough to make it work for people that need that crutch and that need to be able to represent themselves in some way, if not in person, then certainly in writing. So I would support language changes to accomplish the task. And I don't want to split hairs. I think you know what the point is of who we're trying to help or who would be helped by this. So I would hope that we do move in the direction of adopting language that we can all be comfortable with, that still meets the need that is very, in my mind, is a very obvious need.
Councilmember Gallo?
Yeah, I'll just throw in a couple extra comments. As far as people not being able to be here, we're probably talking about a couple, 3 maybe per mobile home park at most. And every mobile home park hearing, there's generally a spokesman for the residents. Okay? Now, they have a meeting. There's a meeting of the residents and the mobile home park owner and Karen every month, or when they have a hearing at the mobile home park, so that people can walk from their coach to the clubhouse. At that time, if somebody has a problem making it to a meeting, then I think it's incumbent upon the resident spokesman to say, I can give you a ride. And what's the big deal? Okay? So, and the other thing is, you know, how far down the slope do we go avoiding the majority rule? I mean, that's what this country is based upon. So I don't see where we have to change anything. I'm trying to remember when this came up on the agenda a couple months ago. I think I voted the other way at the time. I'm not sure. But after a lot of thought on this, I thought, you know, this kind of leaves it open to to potential abuse. Okay? It kind of reminds me of, not to go on a tangent, I don't mean to digress, Jeff, but, you know, voter ID, you know, it's too hard for people. Then how do you get a driver's license? That's even more difficult. You know, I don't know how people do this stuff, but anyway, that's my thoughts.
Councilmember Masson?
Yeah, just a few more things to add. And first of all, this was not a grand jury investigation. It was just a recommendation from a staff person, so we weren't really at that level of having to make any changes. I agree with Councilmember Brasco on the language. The other thing I'm challenged and torn with is the history of this thing. We haven't had any challenges. The parties back in the day negotiated this agreement as it is today, and it hasn't been changed since. The current ordinance is working. So I don't know if I want to open up Pandora's box to you know, I think I don't know what we gain from this. So that, you know, if we have to change the language, and that's where the majority of the council wants to go, I think we can narrow it down, perhaps to get to the right place. But again, I think it may open up the box to be abused, and possibly politicized. Who knows? So I'm struggling with both those things, but if it's not broken, don't fix it. Or, I mean,
I want to add something to you. Just thought about it. This is a public hearing. So why don't we do it for other public hearings? And then we're going to set the precedent here. You know what? This is a democracy. This is, I don't know if somebody is here in front of us talking to us, then we know that he expressed his opinion and position, but I don't know what happens between the time we received the affidavit and the person who served it, and what did they tell them. It's just a way to undermine a process that's been working great. And also, if somebody is disabled, they can sign the letter and send it to us. It doesn't have to be a part of an ordinance where the ordinance is working. But anyway.
Well, I think there's also an opportunity at the resident hearing to express opposition to the increase.
Right.
So this idea of, so there's two opportunities, one at the resident hearing and also one at the public hearing.
And it's reflected in the staff report as well.
Right. So I don't know that we need to open this thing up, and the more I think about it, the more I would rather just let it lie.
So we do offer that 50% plus one threshold, which I think in all my years here has only been met once, right? So it's not common, but denying somebody the ability to send us a note that gets counted. It's that part about being counted that matters to them. It matters to the special process we go through. It's not just a public hearing, it's a rent review hearing. We serve in a different capacity when we hear rent review discussions. And I just don't think it hurts us in any way to accept a letter that gets counted toward that 50% plus one threshold. Yes, we receive communications, and yes, we can consider them, but we don't legally, technically count them, and that's, I think, the part that is missing. Again, if we get flooded with them and it's abused, I would absolutely want to consider changing it again. But I don't see that it will be abused. Okay. Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah. I think we can get communications, and I think, in my mind, I do count them. I read it, I read the documentation, I read the letters that are sent in with all the applications, short and long forms. And that's all part of my deliberative process of making a decision on how we move forward. So whether it's an official count, 50 plus one, I've never been in that situation. And again, my concern is changing something in a document that's worked for a long time and tweaking it when I don't think we really need it. So
when we have a rent review hearing, Karen will start with a report to us of how many people signed in to protest. That's the official count. The emails never get counted officially in that way. We read them. We get emails about all kinds of topics, right? But we don't officially count them towards something. That's the threshold that we're trying to overcome here. Will that letter or that email or that communication we receive get counted by Karen when we start the beginning and she says 30 people signed in to protest? That's specific.
The 51% threshold is not binding. It's just a guideline to the council. They have the option to deny it or approve it. It's just a non-binding document. And look, I am truly concerned about a system that has worked. We have improved the parks, we have improved the living conditions in the park, and now we're trying to create. One person reported this to the grand jury, and the grand jury is making some recommendations. So anyway, we close the public hearing, and if there is no action, the things will die. If there is any motion, we will see what goes.
There's 2 parts.
Okay.
The second part is to update the board's procedural rules and to correspond with City Council's procedural rules.
Right, and that's the changing the meeting time from 4 to 4:30 and those cleanup. I can support that without changing the signature requirements.
I can do that too.
Are you going to bifurcate?
No.
The second part, just to be clear, the second part with respect to Section 13 is simply just to adopt the City Council rules and procedures for purposes of the Rent Review Board hearings, as opposed to having a complete separate new list. It's just unnecessary. So that's the purpose of Section 13.
Okay.
So how do we do it?
So I would move that we make those recommended Section 13 modifications to go along with the council policies and rules of order, and scratch the item H recommendations for changes.
12H.
12H, correct.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Masson. I have a second by Councilmember Gallo. Please vote.
4 yes votes. D is voting no.
Okay, moving on to item 6, fiscal year 2017-18 police tow service agreement. Staff or public, I have one request here on item 6. John Estelones, sorry, Stefanos. So please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. My name is John Estefanos, and I'm an attorney. I represent Roadway Towing. I want to thank you for giving us the time to address this issue. As you all are aware, that Roadway has come up on a renewal of their towing contract, and the Escondido Police Department is making a negative recommendation so that the contract is not renewed. On June 26th at 10 a.m., the owner of Roadway Towing, Franchetti, had a meeting with Escondido City Police, and the meeting didn't go very well. He felt that he didn't have an opportunity to kind of present his case. He wasn't able to explain his position. Wasn't really able to bring in his office manager to the meeting. We have emails of the police department telling him he can't really bring anybody with him, that the meeting would be alone, and in fact the meeting was not alone. It was with 2 officers from the police department, I believe. Roadway Towing is a financially stable company. That seems to be one of the issues that the police department is focusing on. They're financially stable. They've turned in documentation, P&Ls, balance sheets to indicate how strong they are. This is a company that's gotten this contract 2 terms prior to this. Their current financial state right now is stronger than it's ever been, and they're being told the exact opposite. The site inspection was done. They passed the site inspection. So they obviously checked the vehicles, the actual site, the building. All that seemed to pan out. Roadway employs about 25 to 30 employees, and talking to the employees, every single employee seems to love working there, feels that the environment is good, feels that the environment is professional. Denying Roadway this contract would really have a financial impact, not just on Roadway, but those employees that actually are employed by them. The ownership and management of Roadway Towing is asking the City Council basically to reverse the recommendation of the Escondido Police Department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Sapphire Blackwood. Sophia, I'm sorry.
Sapphire, like
No,
the gemstone. Thank you, sorry. No,
pronounced it right
okay,
the
it's
first
weird.
time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Council, and thank you for listening to this issue. As he said, he kind of explained everything, and I'm not going to get into some legal jargon as to why we're motioning this in public. Public Contract Code Section 1103 defines a responsible bidder as a bidder who has demonstrated the attribute of trustworthiness as well as quality, fitness, capacity, and experience to satisfactorily perform the public works contract, which Mr. Cotty and Roadway Towing have proved this in years past. He has been awarded a contract twice and has been very transparent in his financial dealings. He has over 6 years of service provided to the city of Escondido. Frank Cotty, the owner, received a denial letter for an RFP bid. Mr. Cotty sent out several questions that went unanswered prior to the RFP submittal date, dating back to April 27th, 2017, to Lisa Rodello, the police business manager. He received a denial letter emailed to him end of business day on June 21st, but it was dated June 19th, and that gave him less than a week to respond, given the actions. And they met at 10 in the morning and had that meeting in which he wasn't really able to present his case. His operations manager wasn't able to go in there with him, neither was his attorney. So given the large and lengthy application of the RFP process, the reasons listed to deny Mr. Cotty are at minimum arbitrary and capricious, including the definition of complaints and what kind of complaints were filed, which if you note on the city agenda, you see 18 complaints were filed in 6 years. And that's reflective of less than 1% of his total business. Some calls made to the police department were actually made by Mr. Cotty himself because he's feared for the safety of employees. I feel if some of us here have had our car towed and understand the frustration and why it's important for police to mitigate some of those issues, especially with female employees late at night, so people can get aggressive. And I actually see that as a way to mitigate and something that should be re-looked into and how it's actually seen under complaints. So, you know, we kindly ask council to give Mr. Cotty and Roadway a fair chance at the contract. This at minimum would include a new review process, an impartial third party to kind of go in and see what is exactly being reviewed when these tow bids go in for contract submittal. And I'd just like to reiterate that Mr. Cotty has been fully transparent about all his finances, and that was actually the question he was asking on April 27th that was never answered. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Josh Park.
My name is Josh Park. Excuse me. Honorable Mayor and City Council persons, I have owned and operated Al's Towing here in Escondido for 20 years and serviced the police department contract for that entire time. The contract with which you are about to vote on states that the tow company is the city's independent contractor and no express or implied agency or employment relationship is created by this agreement. Now, while this might be true, the city must recognize the fact that tow companies and their actions can significantly affect the city and its image within that community. When someone's vehicle is towed, it can be a very traumatic experience. To many individuals, their car might be the most valuable possession that they own. This person might have had their vehicle towed because they broke the law. They might have had their vehicle towed because they're involved in an accident that was not their fault. Either way, that customer is going to end up at one of your tow contractor's yards. That tow contractor and their actions can have a profound effect, negative or positive, on the citizen, on the reputation of the police department, and on the city and the towing contractor itself. Reputable towing contractors understand that citizens who interact with us deserve respect and they deserve compassion. It is our job to explain the process, help them get their vehicles back, and to help them deal with the administration requirements. By doing this in an honest, helpful, and professional manner, we can turn a negative experience into a positive experience. I believe that the City Council should strongly consider the track record and history of any service provider that the city intends to partner with. The image and the reputation of the service provider are a reflection of the company, the police department, and the city as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all what I have in public speakers. I will bring it back to the council discussion and action. Let me ask the city attorney or city manager. We had some communications, and I don't remember whether it's Sky Towing or it is Rodway Towing. Was it Sky Towing?
I believe the electronic communications you received were from the representatives of Roadway Towing.
Roadway Towing, yeah. So with the process that we have, I think Sky Towing had 32 citations. Roadway Towing did not have any citation, but they did have some financial stability and issue. I just want to make sure the process is fair. I remember that NK Towing 10 years ago were refused for some issues, and they were giving the opportunity to fix them, and NK Towing joined the rotation, and they were part of this. I just want to make sure that every towing company have the opportunity to correct the issues. And as Josh said, we need to maintain that high standard for the city. I just want to make sure that every towing company would have the opportunity to correct the citation, to meet the standard that we have. And having a higher standard for our police is a good thing because we are dealing with the citizens. We're dealing with people's life. And you know what? My daughter called me and my car was towed in Carlsbad. And it's frustrating, you know, to just go and spend 3 hours and pay a few $100s, but okay, she's gonna get mad at me when I go home. Because sometimes she watches the council. But anyways, I just want to make sure the process is fair, and we will not exclude anybody or giving anybody an opportunity to correct those problems. Am I correct?
Just forgive me, I've been fighting a cold here, so that's why I had to leave. I think the criteria that was looked at across the board was fair. And I think maybe PD can address the issues of how they went about deciding which criteria to look at, how they were weighting them, what their evaluation was with respect to each of those. And my apologies for my voice.
Okay.
Mayor, to answer your question, I would welcome them to come back in the rotation again. We want to open it up to anybody that qualifies. And certainly for their yard, they do qualify, and we have a very extensive list of things we look at. Where we work carefully and where I'm very concerned is they do represent the police department, they represent the city, and I want the best of the best. And when that is not what's presented, then this is what happens. So if in the next 3-year rotation they could come forward with a better track record, then we would welcome them back in that process, absolutely.
And also give them some time between the time we send the bids, you know, in a week or a few days. Give them some time. Maybe there are some issues they're not aware of it. So we want to be fair to everybody. I'm not asking to compromise the standard.
No, and I would agree with you too. There was in the inspection, I believe there was a hazmat issue, and they cleared that right away. So there's an opportunity to take care of the things they can correct immediately. When we're talking about pattern of behavior, that's hard to correct in a couple days.
Okay, thanks very much, Chief. Okay, Councilmember Gallo.
I think Josh Park hit the nail on the head with his comments. Of course, Al's Towing has been in town for 50 years. I don't know. How many? 70? Yeah, Al Youngstrand was a great Rotarian. He was the former owner. Anyway, I have to agree with the police department. They go through a pretty rigid process to make sure that we hire, as Chief Carter said, best of the best. I was disappointed that NK didn't apply, but anyway, please. Hey, c'est la vie, okay. Anyway, that's my comments.
Great, okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Gallo. I have a second by Councilmember Diaz to accept staff recommendation. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Thank you. We move on to item 7. Award for bids for the purchase of chemicals for the water and wastewater treatment plants. Staff.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Lori Roundtree. I'm the Deputy Director of the Water Division. Sitting next to me tonight is Edith Molina, a supervisor within our Finance Department. We have a revision tonight on Exhibit A under Item 7, and it is under the lowest responsible bidder regarding the chemical company name. With that, if you'll need any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. So, any question? If there is no question, we need to approve that with the correction. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Masson. I have a second by Councilmember Gallo. Let's wait for...
I just want to make a comment.
Yes, go ahead. Good timing.
The total cost of all the chemicals to have potable water...
Over $2 million.
$2,118,997. That's a lot of money when you turn on your tap.
Water is good. Okay, Councilmember Morasco, we're going to give you a few seconds. Let's vote. Now is the time to tell us the story. Until
Actually, it's fun if you try to pronounce these chemicals.
Yeah, good luck.
Aren't we waiting for Mike?
we're waiting for a
trying to
few
give
seconds.
by Mike some time, but
You snooze, you lose.
polyelectrolyte, that's fine.
That's why we have chemists, Olga.
Cationic. No, I know.
And future chemists.
That's where you get me to lean over and vote.
You push it.
Waiting for you.
I dare you.
Okay. Thank you.
5 yes votes.
All right, moving on to our public hearing, item 13. I do own a property just outside the 500 feet, but just to be cautious and avoid the conflict of interest, I will be abstaining, and I'll be leaving the dais as well. So Deputy Mayor Masson now is in charge. Mr. Masson, you have the gavel.
Hold on.
Kind of like this view.
I need a picture. Smile. Might be your only chance. He
And
doesn't
both my
figure
kids
it
are at camp this week, so they won't see me on TV. Jeez. Okay, so we have a staff report.
Deputy Mayor and council members, Vince McCaw, Real Property Manager. The item that we have tonight is a public hearing to consider a resolution of necessity to acquire property interests. The city of Escondido is currently in escrow for the sale of the old police station site. It's located at 700 West Grand Avenue. The developer provided plans for proposed improvements on the site and was asked to maintain the setback on West Valley Parkway. In order to accommodate the desired setback, the proposed project improvements required the vacation of 13.5 feet of excess right-of-way along Grand Avenue. The property is being acquired for the improvements of pedestrian access along and between West Valley Parkway and Grand Avenue. Now, while the city owned the fee interest in the parcel that's currently in escrow, it was discovered that the underlying fee interest within the portion of Grand Avenue proposed for the street vacation were held by two property owners, North County Transit District and the Escondido Lumber, Hay and Grain Company. We communicated with North County Transit District, and their board recently authorized the execution of a quitclaim deed to release their interest in Grand Avenue. Efforts were made to locate the other owner, which is Escondido Lumber, Hay and Grain Company, which included searches to the California Secretary of State, internet searches, coordination with the title company, and discussions with the owner of Escondido Lumber, who's a business that currently is operating within the city. With our discussions with the owner of Escondido Lumber Company, they confirmed that they did not own the land and relayed that information and coordinated that with the title company that we were working with. So we concluded that Escondido Lumber, Hay and Grain Company, they held the land since 1910. And through our efforts, as well as working with Chicago Title in this, we confirmed that the company is no longer in existence. Notice of public hearing was published by the city clerk's office on June 9th, and we received no request to speak today. So it's requested that the City Council adopt a resolution number 2017-99, a resolution of necessity authorizing acquisition of the property by eminent domain. This concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
have-
Mr. Gallo, is that a question? Comment?
I have a question.
Okay, you have to push the button. She just bounced you out. I was trying to turn Ed on. You have to push.
You need a tutorial.
You need to push the button again.
Is it my turn? Oh,
Your
thank
turn.
you. Oh, it's on. Can you confirm that we need a supermajority to authorize eminent domain? When we don't use it often, but I believe we need 4 votes, not just 3.
We need 2/3 of the body, and that'd be 4.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just,
Look me up, John.
Mr. Gallo.
Okay. Jeez. I was on the transit board, and because I didn't get to vote because of conflict of interest, but I would have voted to give you guys the land for free, the whopping 2,300 square feet. But Escondido Feed and Grain used to be, I used to buy alfalfa hay there 40 years ago on Washington Avenue, where the Escondido Disposal Repair Yard is now. So they must have gone out of business. I think it's pretty amazing that there's no owner that can be found for this property. That's unbelievable. And I'm not a big eminent domain person, but I'll go for it.
Okay, no requests from the public to speak, or I'll close this session, open the public hearing. Is that right? Nobody wants to speak at the public hearing? Anybody from the public want to speak to this item? No. I close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion and action. I have a motion by Councilmember Marasco, second by Ms. Diaz. Vote.
sure you don't want to stay a little longer?
Oh, I just pushed
pushed
Sam's button.
That doesn't work. So what kind of grade did John get?
Let's see, hang on.
Let's
Abstain.
cancel vote. Let's cancel.
Let's try this again.
He's going to reset it.
So who did the motions?
So can we get the motion in the second again? Okay.
And Diaz? Motions have not been taken.
Let's vote.
Press his abstain button.
No, there you go.
4 yes votes, Maribad abstained.
Thank you.
Good job.
You passed. That's good. Thank you, John. Okay, this is yours. All right, we move on to the current business, the item 14, 2017-18 City Council Action Plan Update. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, City Council. To provide some context and background to some public members who might be tuning into this item for the first time, the City Council Action Plan is a 2-year plan that informs the public and also provides direction to staff on key priorities of the City Council for staff implementation. The action plan was first established back in 2013, and this is our 3rd action plan since its inception. The action plan efforts began back in February, if you recall. There was a robust discussion at the Mitchell Room where the council held a meeting to talk about community visioning, challenges, and opportunities. Staff summarized those details in minutes that were provided to you in March, on March 1st. When we received confirmation that the minutes were accurately reflected, we took that information and prepared a draft action plan and presented that to you on April 5th, where we received some additional direction and discussed also with staff timelines for completion and responsibilities. Today brings us to June 28th, where we propose the final action plan, and this document, once approved, would take us through December 2018 for implementation. As consistent with prior action plans, we've boiled it down to 4 priority areas, that being economic development, fiscal management, community improvement, and public safety. The strategies that were developed focus around a single goal for each of those priorities. For economic development, the goal is to ensure the long-term vitality of Escondido's local economy. And the matrix that you have in your staff report focuses on those strategies, ranging from proactive economic development, processing and attracting significant projects. We have the Palomar Hospital redevelopment that we've been discussing with the representatives of that organization, stormwater regulations, and smart city policies. For fiscal management, the goal is to approve a balanced budget each year as required by state law that ensures the city's financial stability, and the strategies are focused around the council's efforts to ensure that we have a robust, balanced budget and we are responsible with our PERS obligation. Regarding community improvement, the goal is to improve aesthetics, design, land uses, and accessibility to support community needs. And we have various strategies focusing on proactive code enforcement, continued neighborhood transformation program efforts, activity areas for the youth to keep them involved and away from gangs, graffiti ratification, and Escondido Creek improvements. And then finally, focusing on public safety, the goal is to maintain a safe environment for Escondido with high-quality emergency services, with strategies focusing on homelessness, enhancing police officer presence in the community, and dealing with gang issues. Last week, if you recall, at the CIP budget, we tailored several of the budget items that were presented to you for adoption around many of the strategies that are contained in the action plan, and this summarizes those. You'll recognize this screen from the prior presentation last week. So there's a number of different programs here that are crafted around the strategies in the action plan. For next steps, staff is seeking your approval for the strategies and the milestone dates, and then we will commence those strategies, providing an update in 6 to 9 months. Be happy to answer any questions, and I have staff behind me in support.
We don't have any requests to speak. Just for clarification, I like the community improvement, but the action plan that we adopted is neighborhood improvement. Community improvement is a wide-ranging, and it's not really specific. Neighborhood improvement is we're talking about the neighborhood in the urban core, but specifically because the rest of the community, I think we don't have the same challenges as we have in the urban core.
Okay.
So it is neighborhood improvement.
Got it.
Right.
We'll make that change.
Councilmember Gallo.
Just real quickly, a couple things jumped out at me that turns my screw. But first, all you kids out there, this will be on the city website.
That's correct.
I'm referencing this for our students. So you can go on the city website and you can pull this whole document out and get a better grasp of what's happening in your city. I like item 9. I haven't seen this before. Fund enhancements such as holiday decorations. Thank you, Michelle. And our economic development director does that. And another thing is increased TOT, transit and occupancy tax revenues, to seek additional high-quality lodging opportunities. And anything we can do to increase our revenues, this is what we're all about, because we have some serious years ahead of us, as the mayor keeps telling us. I have to step back now to the holiday decorations again. I just got sick and tired the last couple of years going down on Grand Avenue downtown, and it was like Scrooge ran downtown. There was nothing to indicate that it was December. Nothing. Every shopping center in the world puts up Christmas decorations. Why? Because it gets people in an uplifted mood and they're more apt to spend money. When you spend more money, we collect more sales tax. When we collect more sales tax, we have more things that we can do for everybody in this community, including our teenagers. So anyway, that's my comment.
Great. Deputy Mayor Masson.
Yeah, thank you. I just kudos to staff for putting this together, condensing all of our goals and action items as a council, doing it in a very condensed period, because normally this would take almost a year to produce.
The last plan was brought to you when we had our 2-year plan in August, so we've shaved off 2 months.
Yeah, and so good job and on that. I just, yeah, it was 4 months this time. I like it all. For the kids out there, we're going to get you a skate spot at Washington Park, so look forward to that. And just wondering on the deadlines if we can change these all to end of this year. No?
Give us more staff.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Mr. Epp.
Well, we were shooting for September, but if you want us to wait, we can wait.
Okay, Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. I'm only responding to your comment, Mayor, that it shouldn't be community improvement, it should be neighborhood improvement. And I know neighborhood improvement is a significant component, but there are a lot of things on here that are beyond just neighborhood issues, like the Christmas decorations, things like having workshops to talk about utility undergrounding. That affects more than just the NTP areas. So I don't have a problem with leaving it community improvement. I never noticed that was not a good title. It seemed...
It's
broad
very
enough?
general, but I think maybe we can change it next year, but now we have adopted it. And
Did it
that's
used to say neighborhood improvement?
always for the last 5 years.
But it's broader, so I kind of like community improvement because we aren't just focused in one place. It's not just graffiti or, it's...
I think all the rest of it doesn't mean that we have to only work on the urban core, but I think our neighborhoods really, so they have some specific challenges and then we are focusing with the NTP program, with other things. This is where the crime area, this is where the code enforcement, this is where the neighborhood. I think this is our biggest challenge. So I think, community, every goal of this is a community goal. So I just want to make sure we don't lose track of our urban core.
Okay, I was just concerned you were saying let's just do that, not all of the other things, but they're all important.
I agree with you,
so,
but yeah.
It's all for a community.
Okay, yeah, and I like this plan. I remember the first time I got to participate in a council action workshop, it seemed very fluffy, right? Like, let's talk, and now with this format, and there's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, it's specific, and this is when we're going to do it. And so it adds clarity for staff, and also the ability for us to make sure that we're on pace to actually have completed some action. So it's robust enough. I'm happy with it. It's fine. But I also remember wanting the flexibility to deal with stuff that comes up that we haven't anticipated. So,
Right.
I mean, we can do that anytime, but, to be able to adapt, for example, when the hospital downtown was going to close, and we didn't see that really, we didn't expect it as suddenly as it happened, that we need to jump on it. So I'm happy to hear that we have already. But if something comes up, I want to be able to say, oh, you know what, this is priority one, let's work on it.
Right.
So that flexibility remains even with this document. So that's fine.
Great discussion. Thank you, staff. We have been doing this action plan since I was elected mayor in 2010. I wanted this specific goals document with measurable results. Before we had these large documents and we don't know what we did. But I think the success of this action plan is going to be determined by our financial ability to deliver on those. I did have when we did the workshop in February, we had a community involvement. We had a lot of speakers there. They gave us their input. And basically now that we have different priorities, it is within the action plan, but making our city safe, making our city clean, the homeless situation, and to do it, we have to be more efficient as a government. And I think this narrow focus within the action plan is great. I did have a mayor advisory board meeting about last week. Invited Jeff and Mike and Michelle and Jay, and just to learn from them about the priorities and about the issues from a resident perspective. Yeah, it's just about 15 members of the communities, and it's across board. We invited both superintendents from the schools. We invited the charter school. We invited a wide range of real estate people, community leaders, a lot of people, and I think we had a great 1.5 hour discussion, and basically they validated our priorities of safe, the homelessness, public safety, and the appearance of the city. Basically, these are a great, you're there, Jay, and I think it's good to have this validation from the community to move forward. You know what? We do have challenges, and we're going to meet these challenges. We're going to succeed. We're going to keep Escondido the greatest city on earth. And it's an exciting time, and we're gonna win. We're not going to let those guys define our city. We're not going to let the social media define our city. We're going to define our city the way it is, and we are very proud of everything Escondido has to offer, and I think we're going to make the city better. So thank you, staff. It's a great reflection, and we have 5 council members on board on this. This is great to have this strong support from the council, and I think the council needs to move because that's the last item on the agenda. So I have a motion by Councilmember Masson. I have a second by Councilmember Morasco. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Great. Moving on to our future agenda. Anything, Council? Okay, Council members' subcommittee reports. Councilmember Gallo.
Hello? Okay. First of all, I'll start off with the bad news. North County Transit had a bad week. Since Friday, we've had 3 pedestrian strikes on the coastal rail line, which happens to be the second most, the busiest rail corridor in the country. 2 were fatalities. 1 was not a fatality. But let me tell you about the one that was not a fatality, and I hope you kids are going to listen to this. A guy was standing by the railroad tracks in downtown San Diego with his face in his cell phone. and he just didn't realize how close he was to the track. And when the train pulled in, thank God it wasn't somewhere in Del Mar where the train was doing 50 miles an hour. He got clipped. Okay? Now, how many times have you seen people walking down the street with their face in their cell phone, oblivious to everything around them? Does that strike a chord? Anyway. Last Friday, I went down to San Ysidro. To see the progress on expanding the world's largest or busiest border crossing. It's absolutely amazing. We had the ambassador, Solario. She used to be just the consulate general. Now she's got two roles. Now she's an ambassador, and plus she's works as a consulate general. We had Anthony Kleppe. He's the Land Port of Entry program manager. Let's see who else was there. Serge Dedina, mayor of Imperial Beach. Me. Staff member from David Alvarez's office, plus a couple other staff people. Extremely interesting. It's a $750 million project. So when the guy told me what the cost was, I said, you know, we build football stadiums in this country for twice that amount of money. So this is not really a big deal. But it is a big deal because it all has to do with economic development. Because when you cut down the waiting times, one guy who used the pedestrian bridge, was opened a few months ago, he said the wait time used to be about 2 hours. With the expansion, it's been cut down to 20 minutes. No people standing out in the sun, getting heat stroke, all that stuff. Marcelo, Mayor Dedina, David Alvarez. Okay. We're adding 15 inspection lanes. We're pretty much doubling the size of the inspection lanes. I-5 realignment, that's going to be a bear because they're going to shut down the freeway for 3 months. But yeah, ultimately we'll have 30 northbound auto lanes. And it's going to cut down a lot of the wait time for commercial traffic, people getting to work, et cetera. It'll give them more time to spend with their families, whatever they do with their free time. From the Water Authority, the next Citizens Water Academy, I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but it's a good educational experience to learn about your water and where it comes from, et cetera. This is just in San Diego County. The next tour is October 10th, and this will be on the San Diego County Water Authority website as well. Wednesday, October the 18th, and Friday, October 27th. It's just a one-day deal. Nominations are due August the 28th, so you have plenty of time. You have 2 months. And applications are due September the 5th. Let's see. Canal lining projects, they conserve 80 million gallons of water a year. Energy, yeah, we've talked about that before. One thing I can tell you about, everybody complains about the water bills, especially one person up here who said, I use less water, but it costs me more. But the Water Authority does a really good job in searching for efficiencies and cost cutting. And what Maureen Stapleton has done as CEO of the San Diego County Water Authority is to reduce the staff commensurate with the workload. How many times do you see a government agency cut down the workforce because the workload has decreased? It doesn't happen.
We did.
Okay? Yeah, we did it here. Also on the Water Authority website is a public opinion poll. You can check this out, that the Water Authority did. 1,000 county adults who've lived in the area for over 1 year. What was interesting is top of mind county issues. Number one was affordable housing. And I hope that refers to housing that's affordable to the median income family in the county. Number two was economy and unemployment. Second most of interest. Since we're out of the drought, which last year, that was the number one concern of county residents, was water. Now it's down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth place water supply. And then immigration, cost of living, crime, too much traffic, environmental pollution, healthcare, all of those are at the bottom of the list. But I thought it was kind of interesting what the top concerns were. And I think that's all I have.
Great. I'm really going to limit those reports to 3 minutes. You know, this is supposed to be the highlight, but it's all good information. And Craig agrees with me because he wants to go out and keep our city safe. Quickly about Sandag, we had a, sorry? Yes.
He's working undercover.
Yes, I know. We have a great busy week in Sandag. First, let's put the San Diego Forward Plan, Bill. The San Diego Forward Plan is the big general plan for the San Diego region. It does not interfere with our own general plan, but this is the growth, the infrastructure, the transportation, and we are reviewing right now this plan to make sure we get input from the community. And we are, I think last time they came to Escondido to the Mitchell Room, we would love to have as much participation and feedback from the community as we can. We're using social media this time, we're using electronic media, we're using interactive website as well to make sure the growth in San Diego goes according to Sandak. That's one item. Second item is the mid-coast. As you know, it's about $2 billion cost, and the cost is going to be $1 billion of that is coming from the federal government. So Sandag did refinance the bond to use that $1 billion from the federal government, saving about $500 million, but we cannot use it anywhere else. We have to use it for that light rail from downtown to the UTC. Moving to our the second one, Bill. This is the local agency street and road balance. This is from the ITOC. This is the agency that keeps an oversight over Sandag spending. And just for an example, for Escondido, under Transnet 2, we're supposed to get $44 million. City of Escondido has spent $28.7 million so far. And what do we have left from the Transnet 2 is $14.3 million. Out of that, we have committed about $3 million already for projects. So what we have left is a little bit less than $11 million. So I think it's a good documents to share with the public, for others, with our staff, that we don't have that much money left in our Sandak Transnet 2, and we have to use this $11 million very wisely. Okay, well, thank you, Bill. We have a city manager's weekly activity report included. Oral communications, I don't have any requests. Before our next meeting is July 12th, and before that we have July 4th celebration at Grape Day Park. It has been a tradition here in our city. With the Center for the Arts, we're going to have probably 10,000 people attending. We have the Marine bands, and it's going to be a great festivities, great place to go and spend the July 4th here in Escondido. Thank you. With that, this meeting is adjourned.